Hi, welcome to Cooking with Cobb. I'm your host, Jeff Cobb, and today we're going to be making beefsteak and mushroom pie. This is something that's pretty good. My mom used to make this when I was a kid, and I used to always love it when I came home from school. The first thing that we're going to do is we're going to tenderize the beef that we're going to use. I bought sirloin tips steak, and this is the fun part. I get to tenderize it. This doesn't take much time and it's really easy. You just have to make sure that you don't hit your fingers with the mallet. And then I flop it over and get the other side. One done. In the meantime, I'm going to cut up these pieces of beefsteak so that we can sear them in the pan. I've got this coming up to speed. And right now I'm going to cut these diagonally across the grain. You don't want the pieces to be too large. Okay, so now we're going to cut them in the other direction. We can do a number of them at one time. And we'll just keep on going like this until we have it all cut up. Okay, we have the meat all cut up now, and I've got about 3 handfuls of all-purpose flour in this plastic bag. What I'm going to do is put all of my meat pieces in here. And we're going to shake it up until it has a light coating of flour on every piece. I think my skillet is about up to speed. And now, oh yeah, that looks good. Now we're just going to lay the meat pieces in the warmed oil in the skillet. This is just to brown it, give it a little color, make it a little nicer. I don't want to leave any of these steak tips behind in here. I think we've got that done. So now, I don't want this to burn. I do want it to brown up a little bit, so I'm going to stir it around. Just so we can square it away prior to the mushrooms going in the pan. I don't know if you can hear the sizzle of the beef, but it sounds like it's going to be pretty good. As you can see, the beef is nicely browned, and it's about time to take it off the heat. So we're going to do that at this point. I'm going to bring this little pan over here, and I'm going to reserve this over to the side while I take care of our mushrooms. You can see I'm using a slotted utensil here so that I leave behind the lion's share of the cooking oil. All right then, you can see that the beef is nicely browned. We're all set with that. Now I'm going to take the mushrooms, which I've already washed, and I'm going to slice them. And what I do is I cut the ends of the stems off, because I don't like to waste any of them. And we're going to cut them into slices. You pull the stem right out and cut that into little pieces. And we just continue until we've taken care of all of our shrooms. These were pretty nice looking mushrooms. However, if you don't have access to nice fresh mushrooms like this, you can substitute canned mushrooms. I would have probably substituted 2 or 3 cans of mushrooms for this amount of fresh mushrooms. So now I'm going to put some more butter in the pan, and we're going to lightly saute these mushrooms. You can see the butter's sizzling. And we're not worried about the fact that the beef was in this pan, because it will only add more flavor to the mushrooms. Now, I'm going to scoop up my mushrooms and get them right in this frying pan. And we're just going to saute them until they're tender and they've taken on some of the flavor from the butter and the beef. And I think this is going to turn out to be a really nice beef and mushroom pie. Well, it looks like our mushrooms are nicely sauteed. They're a light golden brown. They've softened up nicely. And now, I'm going to put my oven mitt on, because these iron pans can get hot. And I'm going to take our mushrooms off the heat and put them in this bowl in preparation for mixing them with the beef. Yeah, these turned out really nice. And as far as I'm concerned, you can never have too many mushrooms in a recipe that calls for mushrooms. So we're done with that. I can turn my burner off. And now I'm going to preheat my oven to 350 degrees. At this point, I'm going to put the beef in the bowl. Always good to have a tool to do that with. And I'm going to mix this concoction all together. We want to have a pretty even distribution of beef and mushrooms. And I think that's going to be pretty good. I'm going to give it a little bit of salt and black pepper. I'm going to do the black pepper first Just a bit. And a little bit of sea salt. And I'm going to give it another mix. Yep, that's going to be just about right, I think. Okay. All right then. We have our bottom crust in the pie plate. And now I'm going to add my beef and mushroom mixture. And this looks like it's going to be a pretty darn nice pie. Look at that. Oh yeah. That's going to be pretty darn good. Just sort of even it out so that it cooks properly. Then we're going to add our gravy. Have to have gravy in the pie or it'll be awful dry. So I like to use Bell's gravy, beef gravy. You can use any kind that you prefer, but this is my choice. And you don't have to worry too much about how you put it in because it's liquid. It'll find its own level. I just like to scrape the jar out and get everything out of it that I can. And this is a pretty quick and easy meal to make. We'll just give it a little bit of assistance here. I want to make sure I get all of it in there. Waste not, want not. And there we go. We're set with that now. Now we need to prep the edges of our pie crust. And I've got a little bit of room temperature water here in this measuring cup. And I'm just going to moisten the very edge of this bottom crust with the water. Whoops, sometimes that happens. And just go right around the edge. That's in preparation for putting the top crust on, which is what we're going to do right now. So you just unroll your pie crust. It comes out in a nice circle. And you lay it right over the top. And then we take a fork. Some people use their thumbs. I like to use a fork. And you make a little decorative edging all the way around the crust edge. That'll seal it together and give you something interesting to look at when you take it out of the oven. Some people might trim off the excess crust, but I kind of like the crust, so I don't. I figure, why waste it? We can do a good job with this. Alrighty, now, my neighbor lady stopped by with some more fresh eggs, so I made a little egg wash here. It's nothing more than one raw egg and a little bit of room temperature water, and I scrambled them up. And now I'm going to use my pastry brush to just give a light wash to the top of this. This is going to make the pie crust come out with a beautiful golden brown bloom that's going to make it even more appetizing at supper time. Go around the edge a little bit. And there we go. We're set. All I have to do now is put some vent holes in it, and then put it in the oven. I like to put 3 little slices in the center so that the steam can come out. My oven is preheated to 350 degrees, and now we're going to place it in the oven. By the way, not everybody knows how to make a really good pie crust, and this is a pretty good substitute. I use these all the time. I think it's the best brand on the market. They're made by Pillsbury. You can find them in the dairy section of your supermarket, and it makes for a really quick meal in the evening. Okay, we've taken the pie out of the oven. At 40 minutes, I checked it, and I decided that I'd put it in for a few more minutes. So I put it in for another 15 minutes. I wanted to make sure that the center was cooked properly. When I did that, I put aluminum foil around the outside of the crust so that the edges wouldn't crisp up too much. So it's been 55 minutes in the oven, and it looks like it's just about perfect. We'll be back in a short time. I'm going to let this cool, and then we'll cut it and show you exactly what it looks like. Plated up the pie with some Italian green beans fresh from the garden, and this looks like it's going to be a really nice little supper. If you follow the instructions, if you do it just the way I did it, you can do the very same thing at home. Just remember that all ovens vary slightly, so you have to watch it while it's finishing up. From my kitchen to yours, enjoy.